The tension in the air was palpable as the CEO, John Miller, stepped off the plane at Narita International Airport in Tokyo. Despite years of global leadership experience, he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling creeping up on him. He had just arrived for an important business negotiation with a potential partner in Japan, a deal that could define the future of his company. The problem, however, wasn't the high stakes or the critical nature of the meeting, it was the language barrier. John had no knowledge of Japanese, something he considered a minor inconvenience during his preparation. He had brushed it off, thinking that as a CEO, his fluency in English and the assistance of his staff would suffice. But now, standing in the heart of Tokyo, reality had set in. The pressure of the situation hit him hard. His heart raced as he anticipated what awaited him, a series of conversations in a language he barely understood. As he stepped into the luxury car, waiting to transport him to the meeting venue, John began to doubt himself. His mind wandered through a maze of worst-case scenarios, awkward silences, misunderstood proposals, and the inevitable embarrassment of miscommunication. He started to second-guess his decision to travel alone, as he had not taken the usual precautions to bridge the language gap. There was a nagging worry that this lack of preparation could undermine the company's prospects. Little did he know, the panic he was feeling would soon be overshadowed by an unexpected turn of events. The black limousine sped down the well-maintained streets of Tokyo, the neon lights of the city flashing by in a blur. John sat in the back seat, staring blankly out the window, his thoughts consumed by anxiety. Despite his high-powered position and vast business network, he felt out of place in this foreign land, where every conversation and every sign was written in characters he couldn't decipher. His driver, a middle-aged man named Takeshi, remained silent, as was customary for the ride. John had barely exchanged words with him since stepping into the vehicle, but as the car neared the meeting venue, Takeshi turned to him unexpectedly and said, "Sir, I hope you are ready for the meeting. You must be excited." John, caught off guard, gave a nervous smile. "Yes, excited, but I'm a little worried about the language barrier," he admitted. "I don't speak Japanese, and I'm not sure how to manage the conversation." To his surprise, Takeshi responded in perfect English, his voice calm and confident. "You don't need to worry about the language barrier, sir. I can help you." John raised an eyebrow. "You speak English?" Takeshi nodded. "Yes, I do. In fact, I've been a translator for many years, and I've helped many foreign clients navigate tricky meetings." The revelation caught John completely off guard. Here, he was panicking about a language he couldn't understand, only to discover that the very person who had been silently driving him was more than capable of bridging the gap. As the car pulled up to the luxurious conference hall, John felt a new sense of hope. The stress he had been carrying felt a little lighter, knowing that Takeshi would be there to help translate. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a series of surprises that would change the course of the meeting. When they entered the meeting room, John was greeted by his Japanese counterparts, executives from a potential partner company. The polite exchange of pleasantries was the usual formal introduction, but as the conversation progressed, the subtle tension began to build. John was struggling to follow along, not entirely sure if his message was being conveyed accurately. His mind raced with questions. Was he being understood? Were his proposals being interpreted correctly? At one point, as John stumbled over a particularly difficult sentence, Takeshi calmly stepped forward and took the microphone from the translator. With a subtle bow, he began to speak to the Japanese executives in fluent Japanese, translating John's words with precision and confidence. John stood there, dumbfounded. Takeshi had quietly assumed the role of both his chauffeur and unofficial translator. As the meeting progressed, Takeshi continued to translate effortlessly, creating a seamless flow of communication between John and his counterparts. His deep knowledge of business etiquette, combined with his fluency in both English and Japanese, proved to be invaluable. What began as a stressful situation for John slowly transformed into a dynamic discussion, with Takeshi acting as the bridge between two very different cultures. The Japanese executives, initially skeptical about John's understanding of their language and customs, now saw him as someone who was truly engaging in the conversation. They appreciated his willingness to work through the language barrier and felt a deeper sense of respect for him. Takeshi's quiet confidence in handling the translation allowed John to focus on the content of the discussion without the worry of miscommunication. At one point, when John made a particularly bold proposal about a partnership, Takeshi paused, adjusted his tone, and relayed the message with such conviction that it seemed to resonate strongly with the Japanese executives. John couldn't help but notice the subtle shift in the room. The skepticism faded, and genuine interest took its place. As the meeting continued, John started to feel more and more at ease, no longer consumed by anxiety. Takeshi was not only translating the words, but also helping John understand the cultural nuances of the conversation. He was introducing him to the delicate art of Japanese business etiquette, how to bow, when to pause for effect, and how to convey respect through silence. During a break in the meeting, Takeshi took the opportunity to explain some key cultural differences. In Japan, business is about relationships, he explained. You must show that you value the partnership, not just the transaction. It's about trust. John nodded, absorbing every word. He had always prided himself on being a strategic thinker, but now he was realizing that understanding culture was just as important as understanding numbers. Takeshi's role in the meeting had evolved beyond a mere translator. He had become John's cultural guide, navigating the subtleties of the Japanese business world with grace. By the end of the meeting, John was no longer the panicked CEO who had stepped off the plane just hours earlier. He had grown more confident, thanks in large part to Takeshi's skillful translations and cultural guidance. The deal was moving forward, with both sides agreeing to a partnership that would be mutually beneficial. As they left the meeting room, John thanked Takeshi profusely. I honestly don't know what I would have done without you today, he admitted. You saved me from making a huge mistake. Takeshi smiled modestly. It was my pleasure, sir. I've seen many people come and go through these meetings, but not many are as willing to learn as you. John's perspective had shifted completely. He had come to Japan to make a business deal, but in the process, he had gained a deeper understanding of what it truly meant to build a successful partnership. On the flight back to the United States, John reflected on the events that had transpired. What started as a potentially disastrous situation had turned into a triumph, thanks to Takeshi's expertise and calm presence. But beyond the business success, John had learned a valuable lesson: the importance of cultural understanding in international business. He had arrived in Japan feeling isolated, unsure of his ability to communicate effectively. But thanks to the unexpected role of his driver, he had experienced firsthand how language and culture could be bridged with patience, respect, and a willingness to learn. As John made his way back to his office, he realized that he would never underestimate the power of human connection again. And the next time he found himself in a foreign country, he would be prepared to engage, not just in business, but in understanding the culture that shaped it.